Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to everyone, wherever you may be, somewhere across our lovely world. Thanks again for joining us here live for the one and only, hopefully awesome Serverless Office Hours. We are on the AWS Twitch channel and also on YouTube on the AWS Events channel. So thank you for joining us. I'm Julian. I'm a developer advocate, generally talking about serverless here at AWS. And this week, we are talking more about the cool stuff that you can do with AI. And we've had a few weeks of having some awesome guests on who are talking about their stuff. So you don't have to listen to me blabbing on about the stuff I do and don't do with AI and what works and what doesn't work. So Ran Isenberg, serverless hero extraordinaire in the whole serverless world. Ran, for people who don't know who you are, tell us what you've been doing and how on earth you've been doing so much stuff with AI at the moment.
So my name is Ron Isenberg. I'm a senior principal architect at Palo Alto Networks. I used to work at CyberArk, which was bought by Palo Alto. And yeah, I've been working a lot with AI, doing some also at work, but also some side projects, which I'm going to share some insights about today, building my website and other cool things. And I think it's kind of hard to not pay attention to AI. So you got to try it at some point and understand what's going on.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. Remember, we are live, so send us your questions and comments as well. Eerie Edits, welcome back. Nice to have you as well. We've got Mohan Rapeti joining us via YouTube. Hi, welcome. Yeah, tell us where you are. We always love seeing where people are across our lovely world. We have amazing people all over the world at crazy hours. So that's why I always start the show welcoming people in different, not sort of time zones, but different times of the day to say hello. So yeah, please send us your questions and your comments. We'd love to hear them from you. Saran, over to you. I know you've got a lot of stuff that you've been talking about recently. You've done personal work, as you mentioned, and blog work that you've been doing as well. So yeah, tee us up. Where do we start? And tell us when I should share your slide deck.
I think we can start now. Let's talk about.
I love it.
Yeah. So
yeah, I love
this guy. Yeah. Well, AI makes building slides much simpler now. So I think
need an Opus 4.8 as well. I mean, that's the problem with AI. Things get out of date in days.
Yeah, that's true. I think this is kind of how I've been feeling with AI. Every time I log into LinkedIn, I just get bombarded with news, whether it's Anthropic or just general AI. It's really hard to keep up and understand what's going on. Should I even care about this? Should I try this? Am I missing out? And I'm here to tell you that it's fine. Relax. I'm not a Claude Code expert. I don't have any Anthropic certificates, and don't think you should get them either. But what I am, I'm a builder. So I've been building services, designing services, pushing code to production for the last 15 years or so. I'm an AWS hero, and I think overall I can say that I'm a curious person. I love to learn, and I think these are the kind of characteristics that help me in the end deliver with Claude and build with it successfully. So like I mentioned, I've built personal projects. I've been able to save around over $1,000 per year now, thanks to those projects. I'm generating content much faster. I write a lot of blog posts, and we'll see if we get to that if we have enough time. But also at work, I'm like super architect. I'm delivering much faster, and I'm going to share some insights there also. And this is what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share insights from my personal projects, how I use Claude Code to my own use cases to create content, and also at work. Like I mentioned, I work at Palo Alto Networks. I'm also a consultant around AI and serverless, and I have a website called runthebuilder.cloud where I talk about AI, serverless, and platform engineering. My setup is basically pretty much the same. It's VS Code with Claude Code extension with either a Claude subscription or Bedrock API at work, and I use Claude Cowork with some built-in connectors. Now I'm going to share later on the configurations and skills and things that I'm talking about. So you're going to get a lot of content and configuration out of it.
So around that, but that's interesting. Just looking at your setup, lots of people say the IDE is different, and a whole lot of agentic IDEs coming out, lots of different ones, from Kiro to OpenCode to Z to all these kind of things. What makes you stick with Visual Studio Code? Is it the familiarity of the extensions that you have? And then
Yeah.
are using obviously Claude within that as well. Is that in the CLI part of it, or as an extension as well? Yeah, that always.
I think it's really up to whatever gets you working and you feel comfortable. I think it's okay to try and see if other things are working, but generally speaking, IDEs and developers were really attached to our IDEs. It's really hard to make a switch. Maybe I'll switch to some point to Cursor. It really depends on where you work, and if they tell you, yeah, we have just Cursor, so you're going to use Cursor, or they give you the freedom to use several things, but you just try. I used to work a lot of with Copilot, and I just decided to try Claude, and I liked it much more. It gave me better outcomes, so I just stick with Claude at the moment.
But I think that is also a great message. If people are, building applications and they're like, I don't want to switch IDs or whatever, you don't have to. I mean, here's one of the, a serverless expert who's using Visual Studio Code with some extra stuff. So that's also a cool story.
Whatever gets the work done. I mean, there are no wrong answers. You can do so many things as long as you know how to use the tools. You're going to get it working, and that's fine.
And Mohan Rapetti does say, which custom skill is needed. We're going to be getting to that later. There's going to be lots of info on what actually we're doing. So don't worry.
The skills obviously depend on what you're building, what you know, what you don't know. So we'll get to that. So the first project that I wanted to talk about was something that I was kind of bored, to be honest. I have Google Drive, and I'm syncing a folder on my Mac to the cloud. That's fine. But I wanted to buy a NAS, network attached storage, and basically clone whatever I have on my Mac to my NAS, and it didn't support it. Google Drive didn't support the partition size, the partition type, whatever. Let's build it. So I said, you know what? I want to use rclone, which is an open source that does these kind of things, but I want to have a proper UI on my Mac, and I have no idea how to build MacBook applications. And this is the UX that I have. It's very basic. So it tells you when was the last sync. You can configure when to do the next one. You can configure the destination folders. It does also the auto mount of the SMB drive, and you can see logs. So here I thought, you know what? It's very simple, right? So let's do vibe coding. Let's do like a very simple plan mode with Claude, and just let's go. Do you want to guess how that worked out, Julian?
Don't know how to answer that, because I'm sure it would have worked at the end, but it would have been probably chaotic in the beginning. But I think the learning experience was probably useful.
Yeah, so pretty much. I think in the end, I got it to work, but it was very long and tiring because plan mode for Claude just missed edge cases, some user flows. I didn't even understand everything that I wanted to build, which is also very important. I had bugs for testing. And overall, I felt like for the next project, I should do something different. And this is, I think, where we need to take a step back and look at the entire SDLC. And I know we're all using now AI in some portions of the SDLC, whether it's the planning mode or the design, development, testing, of course, but we're all missing something. We're missing structure and consistency. And my goal here is to have always the best outcomes and to make sure that every time I run this, I get the same results, the best result as much as possible. And sometimes it's just not possible because, for example, here in this part, Claude plan mode wasn't really strong enough. It wasn't that great. And sometimes me as a developer, I just jump way too fast to developing instead of spending more time in planning. So this is where usually I see that AI-driven SDLC frameworks come into play. And these are frameworks. I'm going to give two examples of how I use two frameworks in this session. But the idea is that we're going to do spec-driven development, and it's going to make us much faster. But most importantly, it's going to be more consistent. So we're going to have this. We're going to have the same SDLC stages, but in every stage, we're going to have 4 different sub-stages. We're going to have the plan mode, where the agent decides what it wants to do. And then validation and refinements through elicitation, where it asks us, what do you want to build and how? We refine it and make sure that when it does the execution, it creates the perfect outcome. And then the framework will take us to the next step until we get all the way to production. And that's the main idea.
And I think that's an important thing that you've just mentioned there, talking about the spectrum development, that this is an iterative phase. You're getting the AI to ask you questions. And I like to think of it as it's not necessarily quite pair programming, but it's like having a colleague with you in the room saying, well, challenge me on that. And, the colleague's never going to be offended in what you're going to say. You're like, yeah, challenge me on that. What am I missing? What haven't I thought about? All these kind of things. And in a way, that is a bit of vibe coding, within your planning phase to at least get, better outcomes, better information. Because I think people sometimes freak out with this whole SDLC and spectrum development. It's like, oh no, we're doing waterfall again. And we, having to create millions of documents up front and dying in Markdown to actually do something. And
that's true.
The case, so.
These are actually, yeah, that's true. I mean, I've written a blog post about it, that how the current tools that we use are not optimized, are not optimal for this new kind of development where you have so many empty files that you need people basically to review. It's not great to do that in the IDE. It's not great to do that in GitHub. Our tools are not still tailored to this kind of development. I think it's going to change very soon. But in the end, you're going to see it works. It can be better, but it still works. And the outcomes are going to be much better. So if anybody is not familiar with spec-driven design, I'm going to do this very quickly because it's not the main emphasis here. Our agent, Claude, has our Claude MD or agents MD. We have our project definitions and architecture files in MD format, which are kind of the new programming language, you could say. But on the right, we have our specs. So we have our star definitions, our product definitions, our feature documents, everything that we generate through all the different substages. We're going to carry them over through the SDLC stages. We're going to edit them, refactor, and these are going to be basically the memory for our agent and keep us along the way. So we still do what we need to do. So this brings me to the second project that I wanted to build. And in this case, I actually wanted to replace a SaaS subscription that I had and just build a Kanban board just for the fun of it. And just to manage everything that I do sometimes in the community and conference talks and blog post ideas and things like that. And in this case, I wanted to use one of those frameworks. So in this case, I chose BMAD, Build More Architect Dreams, which is an amazing name, honestly. And it's installed as skills. You can install it to whatever IDE, whatever agent you want to use. And I wanted to try the brainstorming skill. So here it's like a plan mode on steroids, basically. So the way I thought about it is I had vaguely two user flows that I thought I wanted to build from my Kanban board. And I ran the brainstorming session, and it took me 50 minutes, 50 long minutes to have this kind of work through elicitation. And I started to chat with the agent. And in the end, I got an MD file with 36 ideas that I didn't even know that I wanted, but I actually did. And
so what was your original prompt for that? Were you just saying, I want to build something and I want to give me lots of ideas? Like what was the genesis of even asking the brainstorming bot?
So I actually don't remember, but if I tried to, I think it was something along the lines of, I want to build a Kanban board. The use case is this and this. Let's start. And then
so you started with at least the requirement. I want a Kanban board.
Yeah.
Give me some brainstorming. Okay, that's a good.
Yeah, start. And then it just starts to ask you questions. So how it's going to look like? How are you going to use it? When you finish something, how many categories do you have? Basically, all the user flows and things that are going to happen in the Kanban board. Some things I wanted, some things I didn't want, and it really helped me to understand what I'm building. So I had 36 ideas, and then it helped me to understand the requirements, the dependencies, the MVP, and then it takes me through the different stages again. We did design, we chose the tech stack for Swift in this example, and then we built the code, wrote testing, and eventually we had the build and I had something working. And that was amazing. For me, that was an amazing experience because I was less frustrated. I mean, 50 minutes of questioning is challenging, but in the end, it was worth it because then the other phases just went much better. So if you know what you want to build and you have the system designed properly, it's got the actual build phases they're just gonna be much easier and much simpler, and you're gonna be much more satisfied with the results.
Even if you think those 50 minutes, if it was 5 minutes that you were off track 10 times thinking, oh, you've gone down the wrong track, you look at it and go, no, I meant to use that. Oh, no, I meant to use that. Oh, no, I meant to use that. Oh, that time easily goes up. So spending the time up front, yeah, I think makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, and BMed is extremely good with these kind of things for planning specifically. So I want to talk about another project, which is where I'm talking about more about skills, and this was a much more advanced project. Are you familiar with the term SaaSmageddon or SaaSpocalypse?
I love it. I think, yeah, SaaSmageddon is even better than SaaSpocalypse, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it was very hard to miss it, and I think some companies are still affected by it, like their stock prices have plummeted, and you see, outrageous articles like we built some SaaS company in 4 hours, which is just ridiculous. Of course, it's not true, but this was everybody was saying, yeah, we did it. It's so easy now with AI to build whatever SaaS application you want. And honestly, as a SaaS employee and as a person who pays for SaaS from a website, I wanted to see if I need to be worried. Is this, do the AI models are really that great that I'm in danger here? So this brings me to the third project, which is actually my website. So my website has been on Wix for the last 4 years, which is SaaS for website building. I got a website. It's a visual editor that you can build your website. You don't need to know anything about front end. And honestly, I don't know too much about front end development. I'm a architect, I'm a backend engineer with my roots, and I wanted to write content and have a place where people can hire me for consulting. I didn't want to spend time to write front-end code, like it's things that I do when I'm not, in my evening. So it wasn't the focus. And Wix gave me all these cool things out of the box, like a website with high availability, security with my brand email and things like that. But it wasn't perfect because I didn't have things like dark mode, which felt to me very basic at the time, and other customizations, and also the performance wasn't great, and I couldn't impact it I could impact it to some degree, but I wasn't able to tweak it to the full customization levels that I wanted. So I said, you know what, let's give it a try. Worst case, I'm gonna have a cool blog post with some clickbait image, and I'm gonna say, hey, you know what, it's not true, SaaS is not dead, whatever. I was very skeptic that it's gonna work, to be honest. I was so skeptic that I called initially the GitHub project Wix Wannabe. Now this is an image, but I actually called it Wix Wannabe because I was very skeptic that it's gonna work. And this is the actual prompt that I've saved all the parts, all the images from the beginning for the blog post, so I would have something to share. And this is the actual prompt. Now I did use here again another SDLC framework by AWS this time, not BMed. And here I just say, you know what, this is my website, this is the address, it's on Wix. I want to build a better version of it. I want you to scan the website to understand the structure, all the pages. I want you to migrate the content. I have almost 100 of blog posts and videos and things like that. Use a similar theme. Choose the framework because I have no idea what is best for the front end. Focus on security and performance, because it's important. It kind of felt silly to write it, but let's try it. And for the backend, I want to use AWS with CDK Python, CloudFront, and S3. I want to have mobile resolution support and localhost view of the website. And that's it, pretty much. And I started to use AWS AI DLC workflows. Are you familiar with that, by the way? That's an AWS project.
I'm embarrassed to say no. Here we go. I learned things about AWS from Serverless Heroes.
Yeah, so I think it's a very cool skill. It's a funny story. It was actually, if you look at the contributions list, you can see that Claude is there. So Claude has also been helping to build the skill. And the way it works, it detects your workspace. Here you can see it's a green field, meaning that the repository was empty, and you can here see that it was indeed Wix wannabe. This is a real image, not edited. And then it started to understand what are the requirements, and again, elicitation and planning and asking a lot of questions. And then it did an initial scanning of the website, and it saw all the blog posts that I have, all the type of things that you can do on the website, all the features, the design, and we started to work basically. And it took about 3 hours. And honestly, the result was this, which is actually pretty amazing, I have to say. First of all, you have dark mode, which is, for me, a huge win. I have dark mode in my website. Finally, after 4 years, I have dark mode. But honestly, it looks great. You have
You
all
didn't
the
even put dark mode
capabilities.
requirement in your prompt, so it just said you've got a dark mode.
Yeah, I mean, it's so basic now, right? Modern websites have dark mode. Come on. So you can see it took the logo and some images, and it copied whatever I had in the website, and it looks great. But does it? So there's an asterisk. So first of all, I had at the time, I don't know, over 80 blog posts from like 4 or 5 years ago, and many of them, if not most, had some broken GitHub gist, GitHub code examples. Some images were not copied. Some captions were missing. All sorts of broken things that now you need to figure out from a content you wrote 4 years ago. You need to go and check every blog post that was so not great, just to verify that the migration was working. It didn't. So to tell it, hey, do the migration, the planning mode for that part wasn't too good. There were no tests, no unit tests, nothing. The design was fine, but we say in Hebrew parve, which means it was very anemic. Like it didn't have a flavor. It's kind of boring and very AI creative. And it did have security issues, even though I asked it, hey, focus on security, but it still had some security issues, and performance and accessibility and SEO, all things that are very important for a website. They also were not perfect. Okay, so in the end, it works kinda, but it wasn't perfect. And I had to decide what I want to do with the website, whether I want to finish the blog post and say, you know what, I was right, SaaS is not dead, and it's just not there, or you know what, maybe it's very cool and I want to give it a go and continue, because it is very exciting. Like in 3 hours, I got to this. Maybe I can take it to even further and continue building. And that's what I did. I was too excited about the project. I was enjoying myself too much, and just continued. So I did have some issues here that I needed to solve first, right? Because while it was a very fast delivery, I understood that the agent doesn't know everything. It's limited, right? It didn't fix all the problems. But I also understood that I'm limited. I don't know everything about front end. And this is where external trusted expert come into play. And by that, I mean skills, basically, right? Skills to the rescue. And what is a Claude skill, or basically any agent skill? It's an empty file that, or several empty files that your agent can read when it's required, and you can basically give it an extension of knowledge in some domain. So I actually took my website and created serverless design skills out of some blog posts that I have. Or maybe you can use it for serverless testing, or even SEO or accessibility, right? And then the agent understands a new domain and can basically solve the problem for that domain. So that's what I did. I was able to find a couple of cool repositories. One is on the left, is by Boaz Zinnemann from who used to be at AWS. He wrote a repository that helps you with SEO, accessibility, and Google Analytics, which is exactly what I needed. And on the right, you can see Anthropic UI design, which helped me to spice up the fonts and the designs and micro animations, which is apparently a thing that I didn't know existed in the front end domain. But apparently, it makes a huge difference when we keep adding them to the website. So
yeah,
I use
I've
these
used Anthropic
skills.
UI design. I was also surprised, like, oh,
Mhm.
this comes from Anthropic, who makes Claude, like a UI design thing. I didn't realize that it was from them as well. Yeah, I've used it for loads of demos, and it's amazing how not just demos, but applications. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's really important to remember that skills are not deterministic. So I had to try them sometimes, several times, to iterate them because you have a large website. You have so many things going on in the website. So every time I ran it, it gave me a different ideas of how to spice up the website or accessibility issues and things like that. So it's not deterministic, which is a problem when you want to understand what a skill does and even testing the skill if it actually works when you develop a new skill. So that's a challenge that now people are working on to figure out. So it's not enough to have a skill and say, sure, it's going to work. You can't do that. As engineers, you just can't expect and hope that the agent does it and skills are amazing. You just can't. So that's why you need to have some other validations, either tests, or you're an expert or you bring an expert. And in this case, I just brought Google PageSpeed, which is a website that scans your page and tells you how good of a job you did. So in this case, after some iterations, again, it wasn't on the first go. Eventually, I was able to get all of these great scores. Even with the skill, it took some iterations. So again, you need to have those experts, external validations and experts. So it's not enough to just rely on the agent and hope that it does the job. Even if you have the most amazing skill, it's just not enough. It's your job as an architect, as an engineer, to figure out how to solve the problem.
Be honest, Ran, how long have you spent on that performance one trying to get that 99 to 100?
Yeah, I have to say that it still to this day really bugs me that it's not 100, but it's just not worth my time. And some things are just from the framework itself that I'm using, and it's just not possible to solve. So even SEO work, like I have a Claude Code best practices blog post, which is, I think in some countries is number 2, which is pretty cool. So SEO also working. So yeah, the skills work if you know how to use them and validate them in the end. And it took me, just so you realize, it took me almost a month and over 100 PRs to actually get the website to a place where I can say, you know what, this is production ready. So now I have 4,000 tests. I have automated GitHub actions with a CI/CD pipeline with infrastructure as code. I have a script that takes a new blog post, a document, a Word document, and creates MD file for the website with Poly. It uses Amazon AWS Poly to generate the MP3s for the text to audio features that I have. It generates the SEO optimized descriptions and things like that. It took time. I have analytics with Google and daily mails that I get. All lots of cool things that I didn't think that I would know how to build or would like to build. But when you have the AI tools, you can just, if you imagine it, you can just build it, which is I think it's very exciting times.
But I think it shows you because this took over a month to do 100 PRs, you are driving it and curating it and deciding what to do. And sure, the AI is giving you great ideas, but you've got to decide what to do and what not to do and decide what your good is, because you can just let the AI go and go and go and go, and it's going to look as though it's doing an efficient thing. But you are the expert and even, I mean, I resonate so much with this because I look after serverless land. I'm not a great front-end person as well. I'm also a back-end architect. And, I've had to migrate it up a number of frameworks. And I even spoke to happened to be at a conference, one of the person who created this particular web framework. And I said, I've upgraded from version 2 to 3 to 4. And he was like, oh my word. And I was like, well, it takes a lot of time. And lots of things that were suggesting, I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. I think we should go this way, or this is the longer term thing. So your judgment as a human is what actually you actually wanted to take. I mean, that initial 3 hours, between the 3 hours and a month, it's a lot of work to do. Still needs human judgment.
Exactly. And sometimes the agents get it wrong, like because they don't know everything. They make mistakes, they hallucinate. and they have I mean, just it's not perfect. That's why you're here. So it was my design, my needs. I knew what I wanted to build and how to build it. And once I knew that, just Claude just went and built it, which was the cool part. Like I built things that I would never, know how to start to build, but with Claude, it was much easier. And I think this kind of summarizes what we said. So I think, like, if you had any takeaway from my session, I think this is the slide. Okay, this is, take the screenshot. This is the one. So in the end, it's us as engineers, right? We are doing the product design. That's a skill that we're now required to do more. I think the more senior you are, that's already expected of you. But I think even juniors need to start thinking about it, understand the product, understand the problem that you're solving. Right? And then have your coding skills, your system thinking, your system design, your architecture skill, understand how it's right to build this. And then use the AI SDLC frameworks, and that they leverage your agents, your MCP, your skills, and they create the artifacts, which can be code, can be blog posts, they can be whatever, diagrams, research papers, whatever. But most important part is you use your judgment to guide them and to understand when the agent is wrong and when the agent is correct. I think this is the most important part that I can say for the entire session.
Awesome. Frank, can we just take a quick pause there before you go? Because as you were talking about junior engineers, Sakshra Baksori, thanks for joining us via YouTube. I'm learning AWS cloud engineering and I'm interested in AI and startups. I'm 20 years old, and what do you think I'm late? Am I late to learn and build cool things? And that was an interesting thing. Am I too late? Because I speak to students, they're like, I signed up for a software engineering diploma university course. Like, what the heck? Am I in the wrong industry at the wrong time? What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, first of all, it's never late to build anything. You can start at any age, honestly. And I think that in the end, just because AI can build things, it just makes good software practices even more important. Because what benefit do you bring to the table if you don't know to challenge the AI? I've had discussions with some architect at work. You see some people, just click on continue with the AI. And when you ask them, when you open the PR, why did you write it like this? Why did you choose this library, this framework, this approach? And they would say, you know what, that's what the agent said. And that's a horrible answer. Because if you don't even know to explain it, then what the hell are you doing here? So I think even now, more than ever, it's really important to have the basics, the core knowledge, to understand it, to really understand, so you can challenge the AI and to understand when it's not right, when it's doing things that are wrong. Because otherwise, you could just go ahead and build whatever it does and just push it to production and hope for the best, right? So just build and learn and do it. I mean, just practice.
And I think even for something, I mean, I'll even say I've been in this industry far too long, but I didn't know front end either. And I've spent a bunch of time this year learning front end things. And the awesome thing is the AI is there as a coach to teach you and do whatever stuff. And I have literally found some websites or I've asked the AI, I don't understand what's an example, like Next, Vue.js, React, pick your front end framework. I don't know anything about this. Like, why would I want to do something? Tell me about the top 3 ones, why they're different and why people would adopt them. It gives you a whole bunch of information. And then you go, okay, well, let's go, give me an example application, download an example application, and then explain this code to me. Something is doing a build and the page structure, page TSX, like, and then you go down another rabbit hole, like, this is using TypeScript. Okay, well, how do types work? Like, I don't even understand types, so I don't even, and you can, it's not going to judge you. It's not going to, write a report to somebody to say you don't know stuff. And this is the cool thing, that any kind of thing you don't understand, you can just ask. And so I think even junior people appreciate it looks like a high hill to climb to get there. But
you know what?
You've got
That's info. A great point. That's even a great point, because I remember when I was a junior, I was told, hey, here's the code. Good luck.
Yeah.
Go ahead and figure out. Here's I
Yeah.
started with C code. Right, so you have this project, lots of C code. Go figure it out, and here's the new feature that you need to design or build or whatever. But here today, you You can ask the agent, tell me about the architecture of the service, explaining what this code does, explaining the connection between the two classes or whatever. It's amazing. You can get onboarding much faster. You can understand much faster the problems you're facing. These are tools that I wish I had, really, honestly.
Yeah. So yeah, use it. Just before we do carry on quickly, we did have another question. Seeing we sort of slightly sidetracked. Peter Smith, 6:30 a.m. now in New Zealand. Thanks for joining us again.
Wow.
Just when we're talking about the code reviews and the spec reviews, do you have any thoughts on replacing peer code reviews with peer spec reviews? No longer peer review the lines of code. How do you think about that?
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. I mean, in the end, you're going to generate. I mean, in some stages, you generate specs in the design, in the planning, perhaps. You're generating spec files, and you want the product people, you want your team members to review those specs. So what I've seen in the industry is some teams, since there are no proper tools to review specs just yet. I mean, in GitHub, it's really not the greatest way to review differences in MD files. I've seen people create skills or automations that push the specs to Jira or to Confluence. Then they get questions, they get reviewed there. And then when they get the feedback, they push it back, sometimes even manually or through the agent to read the updated file there and update the specs. So this is where I think the tools need to update. We need a better workflow for spec reviews. And until then, it's going to be still not optimal. But once you get the spec going, you can just continue to write the code. And then it's easier for us to review code and specs. It's really hard to read that long. I mean, even blog posts today, you take a blog post of 12 minutes, 10 minutes. I see the analytics. People spend 2 minutes maximum, and I'm generous to read the entire blog post. So people don't have the capacity anymore to read long MD files, which is also a challenge. So we'll need to figure it out.
Yeah. And then sort of slightly similar, but Matt Strammel, 1958, thanks for joining us. What about checkpoints? In this process, where do you decide to inject the human for approval? And I suppose there's two answers. One is one person, and then when you're working in a team.
Yeah. So first of all, what I'm saying is it's not the Bible. I think everybody's trying to figure this out. I think it's all very new, and different teams have different solutions. Some teams might say, you know what, I'm going to take this. You'd see even product managers taking a feature and doing everything until pull request, where the developers, they review the code. Some areas you could say that every different stage you would want some input from either the developer or from the team. It really depends on the process and the level of confidence that you have in your process. I would say that at least if it's it also depends on the task. So if it's a large epic, I would want more people to chime in and say, am I even in the right direction in the planning, in the design stages? And then I could, just go for it and start developing. So again, it really depends on how you work, the size of your team. So many answers here. Like there is no right answer here.
Cool. Thanks.
Any more questions?
No, let's go. There are some more, but I think we've got some bots also giving us loads of questions that don't need to be answered.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's all very new and no right answers. Everybody's just trying things. I think that's so exciting. Right. So I think we have more time for another cool AI usage, and it's around content creation. So a couple of months ago, I got a LinkedIn message from somebody who told me, hey, Ryan, I saw one of your blog posts. It has an M dash in the blog post. You should be careful about it because people will not read it. So it kind of annoyed me, honestly, because he didn't say anything about the blog post. He didn't mention even which one was which blog post was it. And I spent a lot of time writing that blog post, even though I did use AI to rephrase one of the paragraphs to be better. And it inserted an M dash. Oh my God, right? And I realized that people are doing this all the time. They see M dash. I'm not going to read this. I see a CV with, it looks like generated with AI. I'm not going to read it. And honestly, it's their loss because not everything is AI slop. But they said, you know what, I'm spending a lot of time on this. I'm gonna make my practice better. So this is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to use AI, and again, this was another challenge for myself to see if I can really use Claude to help me write the complete blog post without losing my voice. So it's not like me writing an old school Word document and refactoring and switching things and then doing reading it again and going through iterations. It used to take me really dozens of hours. I wanted to see if I can make it with AI much better. And just to clarify, it's not about generating AI slop. It's still about me using my ideas and my thoughts, just writing it much faster and better. Okay, that's the main purpose here. So for that, I use Claude Code, which is an application for my MacBook, and I think it's aimed more at people who are not writing code. In the end, you give it a project. It's confined to some folders with some permissions that you give it, and you can have some connectors to either to the web or whatever application you want on your computer. So in this case, I want to use it to write a blog post. So how it's going to work? We're going to have our claude.md file, which is going to be the rules, right? They're going to say you have to load every time two files: the style guide, how to write, and who am I, who you're trying to impersonate. That's me, and also the permissions, how the files are going to be renamed, things like that. So we're going to go. By the way, all these files, I'm sharing the QR codes along the way, and also in the end, I'm going to have one QR code with all the content that I'm sharing here. So basically, you could do the same thing and fit it to your own style and write cool things and publish them. So the idea is that you have a new project or writing project, and you tell it, hey, you have I created folders for it, like the About Me folder with the file that describes who am I, and a folder for the outputs. And this is great because the project is limited to the folders. It can only read and write things there. It cannot do any harm to my email or LinkedIn or whatever. So this is the Claude MD, and we'll go through this very quickly. It just tells it what to do first. Read who am I, use what are the folders, and how you want to do the output files, how to do the versioning and things like that. And then you have the About Me file where I define who am I, my profession, my expertise, my experience, and basically what am I good at. And then this is the magic file. This is the most important file. So first of all, never use dashes because we know they're very bad. Don't use dashes anywhere. Don't use short, choppy sentences. Don't use things like deep dive or dive deep into or whatever. And this part is more about my style, how I write. So the title needs to be 60 characters, SEO optimized, and I usually have an abstract at the beginning, like 2 or 3 sentences that are what's in it for you. Why should you even bother and read my blog post? And I have a very specific style of how I phrase it. And then I have the table of contents, and I explain then the solution, the problem, then the solution in high level, then the solution in deep dive, and things like that. And this is how it works. And just to emphasize, this is like the analogy. It's not like I'm going to tell the AI, write me a blog about serverless, and I'm just going to dump that AI slop into my website. That's not the idea. It's about me sharing my thoughts, my experience, just talking like with Claude like a therapist. So I have lots of things that I want to understand, and Claude's going to help me to write them better and sort them into actual paragraphs instead of just unfiltered thoughts. That's the main idea here. And this is an example of one of the prompts that I had. And you see, it's very unstructured, very unorganized, just thoughts that I had, even with some typos and grammar mistakes and things like that. And here I wanted to write about AI being so amazing at writing code. Writing code is now cheap, that everybody's doing it. And now my LinkedIn is filled with people saying, oh my God, I've built this amazing project that is basically very low quality. It's a trash project. Give me likes, and tomorrow I'm not going to spend any more time to maintain it. and my LinkedIn is just filled with this kind of messaging, which is not great. And sometimes people build things that already exist, but it just made everybody so excited about building, but they don't focus about what is really needed to buy, what is the correct thing that is missing, what is the problem they're fixing. And I just gave it this kind of paragraph, and it helped me. Look what it gave me. Like, it gave me, hey, here's your title. AI made everyone a builder. That's the problem. It's kind of the problem, right? It's also a plus, it's also a minus. And then it helped me to understand the three kind of anecdotes that I had in my ideas. And from there, we just started to write. So iterations take hours, depending on how complicated the blog post is, if you have code examples and things like that. But the main idea is that I'm not editing the document. I'm reading the document, and then I'm prompting again. In this paragraph, I want you to add it. I want you to make it clear. In this paragraph, the takeaway is not correct. The takeaway should be this. In that paragraph, I want to add a diagram. So create this and that. And this is the iteration that I'm doing. And you can see it took me several hours. You can even see when I went to have lunch. And in the end, you get this, which is the blog post. Even the cover images with AI, you see the robot sitting on an endless garbage of project, mountain of garbage. And then basically in the end, it's my thoughts, right? It's my voice, just faster. And that's great. And I didn't get any complaints. I've been doing this for some time now. And people are reading. I have analytics. People read the blog posts. I get good feedback. And that's amazing. Like, now I can share more things, more ideas, more knowledge, just faster and in a better quality, right? So I think that's the main premise here.
So Ran, you say it is faster, but it is taking still hours of iteration to do. And I do enough blog writing. Blog writing write proper blogs takes a long time. So even with this, vast amount of iteration and feedback in that, you still finding it faster to create it with your voice and do it, rather than just writing it yourself. Because I mean, some people may say,
instead of 10 hours,
what's the value in using AI in a blog post? I find blog posts are best written from a human perspective. If I find something that's AI, it'll stop me reading it right away. I mean, it seems you found the way to use AI assistance just to help you with the writing part, but it's your thoughts.
Exactly. So it's still me. But now, instead of writing a blog post for 10 hours, I do it in 3 or 4 hours. It's the same blog post. And I think it also depends on how pedantic you are and how you care about the quality of your work, because maybe I could have stopped at some earlier, drafts. But for me, it's very important to feel that I can, sign on my work, that I did my best. And honestly, because it makes my work much faster, I'm writing more this year than I did before, because before I would say, this article, I really want to write about it, but the code would take me so much time. It would take me like at least 20 hours. But now with AI, I can write the code much faster. I can write the blog post much faster. I can even ask the AI, review the blog post. Tell me if it's good. Find me issues in the blog post. Find me things that I did wrong. And it actually does it. So I think you have like an editor that helps you to understand if you made mistakes. So you have different types of personas here that can help you. And in the end, you get better quality. I think that's great. But I also want to emphasize that it takes time to refine those skills on those files. It's kind of the same as skills. Like those MB files, it takes you time to refine it, to get it to the rhythm, to get it to the style that you want, so it consistently works well, at least as well as I need it to be. Okay? So it takes time and refinements. I took it to another level, by the way. Are you familiar with the Claude Skills Creator, by the way?
Yes, I know about Claude Skill Creator. I didn't know there was one for LinkedIn. Awesome.
No, it wasn't. So what I did is, since I I write a blog post, then I need to tell the world, hey, I have a new blog post. And this part would take so much time to figure out how to do the hook, how to get people to click on your blog post, how to get the LinkedIn, algorithm to like your post, which I'm still struggling. They keep changing the algorithm all the time. But I wanted to make this part also much simpler, because in the end, I identified my style to write the LinkedIn post. So I created a skill. I used Claude Skills Creator to create my own skill. You can take it and edit it to your own liking, and it creates 3 variations. It gives me options. So it creates me a bold hook, a personal hook, or a cynical hook, like a funny hook, because that's kind of my humor. And it gives me a short version and a long version, and it knows how I'm writing about open source projects or conference talks that I'm doing, and it just helps me to write these kind of things faster and go on with my day. Because in the end, I want to publish something and continue working, right? So again, Skills Creator works great. Again, you need to refine it, but in the end, you can create a skill for basically everything you think. Basically, just automate whatever you think should be automated. I think that's the idea here. And lastly, I use Claude also at work. And we all know this guy who said about a year ago that he thinks that I think by this time AI would write all the code. So maybe that's the case in startups. I don't think it's the case in enterprises. It's not even close. But I think he misses the point, because AI can do much more than just coding, as we've just seen. But also at my work, being an architect. So what I did is build custom skills for REST API standards, for example. So we had a guideline on Confluence where you have all the REST API standards, and I asked Claude to read it, generate a skill, and then when I'm building a new service, I need to create the API definitions, the Swagger files. Now I can tell Claude, hey, here are my entities and the actions that I need to do on the entities. Here are my REST API standards. Build me a Swagger file. And like 5 minutes later, I have a perfect Swagger file that I can place in Swagger Hub or whatever, and it's going to pass whatever validation. That alone saves me hours, if not days, when you're defining new services. So think out of the box. Whatever you can automate, try to automate. Like UML diagrams, everything basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Just open your mind and automate and create skills of whatever you think will save you time. And I think that's kind of binds to the takeaways that, like we said before, product engineering and system engineering is critical here for you as a human to judge the agent, because they have limitations. They're not perfect. They don't know everything. That's why we have skills, but also skills. You cannot rely on skills that they're going to be perfect every time. It's not deterministic. They can also get it wrong. The agent can ignore parts of them sometimes. So you need to have validations and testing around that. And the AI SDLC, the frameworks that I've mentioned, like BMAT or the AWS ones, the SDLC workflows, they're game changers for large tasks like epics. But if you're going to use them on smaller ones, they're going to take a lot of time, and they're going to waste a lot of tokens. That's an overkill. But for epics, that's amazing. And lastly, of course, you can use Claude for things that are not just coding. Even this presentation, I used the Claude's new plugin, which helped me to design things here. So I think the world is changing, and if we can use the AI to make our lives easier and faster, why not? That's the takeaway here. And everything that I've shared, all the links are in the GitHub gist here in this big one. And here you can see my website and my social links. Yeah.
Excellent, right? Oh, that is jam-packed full of information. There are some questions that have come through, but something I'm thinking about is like token usage. Is that something you're worried about? So you're just paying for the max plan, or do you worry about having loads of skills installed, or how are you thinking about the cost of this and the usefulness of this? And
yeah, so for my home projects, I have the $100 subscription, and I've come close to, I've tried, I think this week I've tried the dynamic workflows, the new feature that they had. And I think 15 minutes later, I was at 50% capacity for the session. that wasn't great, and the results weren't like I asked it to scan my website and find issues in the blog posts, and it did find 2 blog posts that still had missing code examples. So even after all this time, I still had 2 blog posts from 3 years ago that were still had issues, but it wasted like half of my session tokens. So I had to wait. If I would end it like 5 hours, I would have to wait. So I think for home usage, you need to be smart about it, but usually I don't. I mean, I work now on smaller iterations and I don't spend as much time on it as I used to, because I'm doing it, when I'm not working. So you still need to, have some life and not be an AI vampire and work all until early in the morning. But it worked. Yeah, it's you have budgets and you need to make sure that you're not going too crazy. You need to be smart about your prompts and smart about the context. It's about learning. Nobody is perfect. You were learning all the time. Skills are a whole different thing. You have best practices for skills now to shorten the context of the skill. Anthropic they released the best practices page where I actually asked Claude, I read the best practices and we factor my existing skills so they can be much better. And you just need to be aware and try. So
cool. If you were starting this all again, what did you waste time on that you would sort of skip over next time, or are there any shortcuts that the brain of Rand can help with?
That's easy. I was very skeptic, and I was in denial, to be honest. I thought, I've been doing this for 15 years almost. I'm really good at this, and no way AI can do this better, that quick. And you know what? It can. So you need to, if you know how to use it, yeah, it can. So once I realized that it's not an enemy, right? It's not my enemy. It's a tool that I can leverage and I can be better at my job. I can do things faster. I can do more things. I can focus on other tasks. I can finish more things. I can build things that I couldn't before. Once I realized that and just gave it a chance, then things just clicked. Again, with the blog post, I would use, I've had, I don't know if I've had discussions on LinkedIn, like people said, you know what, writing is an art. It's a human art. You can't have an AI do that. So it's not great. But it's not the AI who writes it. It's me. It's my words. It's my tone. I choose how to write it. So yeah, maybe it's not perfect. Like it's not my words 100%, but it's still me. So once you cross that gap, you can just once you cross this mental barrier, just go and you fly with it. I think that's if I would have realized it faster, I could have built much more things, many more things.
But I think also your insight that you're using to shorten the time, but when you talk about things like a blog post would take 10 hours to create, or something would create 10 hours to create, and you doing this now in 3 hours, that's still 3 hours of work. This isn't just throwing rubbish over the wall and saying, I can crank out a blog post or a video or something, or some kind of code product in 10 minutes, and that's it. You're building the craft and you're building the engine to actually build something of note.
Yeah. But that's me. I mean, people can abuse this. They could take my writing style, and they could say, you know what, just write me a blog post about the new dynamic workflows feature, post it on LinkedIn, get some dozens of likes, and say, hey, you know what, I'm a writer now. So people can take it wherever they want. I mean, it depends on how you want. How much you care about the craft. And I think people can still understand if the content is rubbish or not. So it might be harder to spot now, but once you start to read, you can see, okay, this person has no idea what they're writing about, or this is very generic or bland.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no unique thought here, no unique experience, and whatever.
Excellent. Well, Rand, thanks so much for spending time with us today. It's fascinating to hear how you are using AI for not just coding and not just serverless, but all the kind of things. So yeah, thank you so much for doing the time. And everybody, I'm off next week, but we're going to have Eric Hanchek on next week. We're going to be talking TypeScript kind of stuff. So yeah, see you same time, same place next week. And thanks for joining. Bye-bye, everybody. And thank you, Rand.